Yo guys, what is going on? JPS back for another video, and today we're going to be reacting to 11 things not to do in Australia. This will give us a pretty good glimpse on maybe some of the things that Australia has to offer that I don't necessarily want to accept. And the first thing is looking at me on the screen right now. If I see that whenever I visit Australia, which I will eventually, because you have to, like, that's a bucket list. Everyone has to go to Australia at least once. If I see that on my visit, 180, and I'm running the other direction. That's what's happening. But yeah, let's get right into it. Hit that like button, guys. Hit the subscribe button, and let's get it.
Australia is many things. It's a continent that makes up the 6th largest country in the world and is home to some of the most dangerous creatures on the planet. And no, I'm not just talking about Australians. With a little over 8.5 million people visiting each year, tourism is a huge part of Australia's economy. That being said, there are a number of things to look out for when you're there, so let's get right into it. Number 1. Don't stray from the path. With over 66 different venomous species, which is the 3rd largest concentration in the world. Over 66 different venomous species, which is the 3rd largest concentration in the world, by the way. It's important to know where you are at all times. Now, this is especially true if you plan on trekking or camping in the outback. With things like the common brown snake, box jellyfish, and crocodiles. There's no shortage of dangerous animals here. So it's important that you stay on the path when you're exploring. And that goes for warning signs as well. Because while it may seem funny to some people from different countries, here they're very real and should be taken seriously. Number 2. Don't underestimate the cost. Australia is known for having one of the highest living costs in the world, and traveling there is no different. Now, of course, this is all subjective depending on where you go and where you're from, but it still might surprise you to hear that a beer costs around $9 Australian dollars, and a meal at a mid-range restaurant costs around $40. Now, all in all, if you're really trying to save money, you can get it down to around $100 Australian dollars per day, and I'll just throw that number out there as an average. But between transportation, food, and lodging, the prices can get a bit expensive, so it's important that you price out your trip accordingly.
All right, I just looked it up. 1 Australian dollar equals 0.65 US dollar. So 9 times 0.65. He said a beer is $5.85. He said $40 for a restaurant. Oh, that's pretty. $26. Yeah, it's a little pricey, but it's not like crazy, like out of this world. But I mean, that's what to expect. That is pretty expensive though.
Number 3, and this is a short one. Don't say shrimp on the Barbie. Now, this phrase was popularized by a 1980s ad with Paul Hogan, who was later in Crocodile Dundee, and it was sponsored by the Australian Tourism Commission to try to bring in international travelers. But this is absolutely not what an Australian would say. If they would even use that phrase at all, they would say prawn, not shrimp. So don't make it more annoying than it already is. Number 4. Drinking in Australia. Now, for this one, I'm mainly talking about major cities, specifically Sydney, so don't quote me on the rest of the country. But in Sydney, you can't get a beer after 1:30 in the morning because they have something called a lockout law, which means no one is allowed in or out of bars past that point in time. And their last call is at 3 in the morning. And of course, don't drink and try and drive because they have one of the lowest blood alcohol content levels, 0.05, before you can be arrested. And last but not least, don't order Foster's beer. That's not an Australian thing, that's an American thing. Instead, try and order a bottle of Bundaberg. My Aussie friends will know why I'm laughing.
I don't disagree with that rule. I think it caused a lot of trouble, like when bars and nightclubs let out super late. So 1:30 is not even that unreasonable either. That's a perfect time, I feel like, to stop. Oh.
Number 5. Don't underestimate its size. Australia is a country with about 25 million people, and because it's a continent, It's made up of almost 7.6 million square kilometers. And despite the fact that the majority of its population is clustered around the coasts, in urban areas. It still means that as a tourist, it's going to take a long time to get from place to place. So it's important to take a look at exactly how long it's going to take you to complete your itinerary. Number 6. Don't always tip. Now, unlike some countries, tipping isn't required in Australia, and that's mainly because their minimum wage is the highest in the world, at around $18.93 an hour. Now, in places like the US, waitstaff require tips to earn a living wage, because the national minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. Now, if you have great service,
even bring that up,
for
bro.
sure you should tip
Pisses
the person.
me off.
All I'm saying is you won't be scorned like in the US if you don't. Number 7. Don't rely on public transport. Now, because Australia is so big and so spread out, public transport is difficult to find outside major cities. You know, it's not like Europe where you can take a train to a small town, hop off, and then hop onto another train to another small town. Australia is just too big for that to be feasible. So you're better off finding other ways to get around. Number 8. Don't talk about immigration. Now, forgive me if I have to generalize a bit in order to get the point across.
What?
But for the most part, many Australians dislike the way that the government handles immigration, whether they're anti-immigration or whether they're disgusted by the way the government handles refugees. Of course, there's all the people in between. But the bottom line is that immigration is a big deal in Australia, and it's easier to avoid the topic.
Oh, there it is. The controversial topic. I'm curious though, like I want to figure out what the different sides are thinking about it. So we definitely need to, if you guys have a good video that explains the immigration issue in Australia, I guess it's an issue for some apparently, comment it down below. Let's get it.
Number 9, don't take anything personally. Now, Australians always seem to be joking around, and insults are one of the ways that they do that. But don't make the mistake of thinking they mean anything by it. There's a funny saying where you know that an Australian doesn't like you if they don't insult you, because it means that they actually think there's something wrong with you and that it'll offend you. Go figure. So take everything with a grain of salt.
I like that. I want someone to talk bad about me. It's hilarious.
Number 10. Don't be afraid to say hello. Australians have a pretty well-deserved reputation for being laid back. And like I was talking about before with the kidding around, they're good at taking things in stride, which makes it easy as a tourist to make friends. And talking to people is a must.
Is that AFL? That might have been rugby.
Last but not least, number 11. Make sure you enjoy Australia. Australia is such a cool place with so many fun and interesting people. And there's so much to do there. It's important to keep in mind that these are all general guidelines and tips that I find out while I was there. And I'm sure you'll have a fantastic time while you're there.
Hey, I'll have fun, but all right, let's watch this. All right, that was kind of weird. And I'll have fun, bro, but I do not think I'm gonna be skydiving, and I don't think I'm gonna be underwater, because I've heard there's some sharks in Australia. I've heard about that. Oh, I wonder what the surfing scene is like in Australia. I feel like I remember something about that. I don't know. We'll have to check that out too. But yeah, guys, with that being said, I actually learned a good amount in this video. The immigration thing does intrigue me a bit. Don't comment what you think down below, unless just don't. It's gonna start a war. But yeah, this is a great video. I'm really glad we checked it out, and just gets me more excited to visit. But I was looking, bro, that flight is like 24 hours. Like, that's crazy. And it has a connection. Like, you have to have a connection to get to Australia from where I live. So 24 hours is a lot, but it'll be worth it once I get that first Tim Tam. But yeah, guys, with that being said, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace.